Welcome to the second episode of my new podcast, I Don't Think We Talk Enough About. Today, I'm excited to share with you a conversation I had with the wonderful Ruby Dhal. Ruby is a writer, poet, self-love content creator, and best-selling author of 5 books of poetry, prose, and bite-sized self-help. Since creating her Instagram page in 2016 and sharing her words around the themes of love, friendship, healing, self-love, heartbreak, mental health, and more, Ruby has gained huge success online. She now boasts an online presence of nearly 1 million followers worldwide. Ruby has featured in Harper's Bazaar, India, New York Weekly, and Times of India, to name a few. After losing her mum at just the age of 3, Ruby's lifelong healing journey began, inspiring her to create art to heal hearts all over the world. This conversation is full of love, compassion, and vulnerability. It's a true reminder that social media, if used in the right way, truly can be a resource in healing, something Ruby does just so well. Ruby's first personal development book, The Path to Self-Love, is out today. If this episode brings up difficult emotions for you, please pause and take some time out, whether that's a walk, reaching out to someone you feel safe with, or simply offering yourself some much needed compassion. And of course, as always, please come back to join Ruby and I, where we aim to guide you gently through ways to heal through a journey of self-love. Welcome, Ruby.
Thank you.
It's so lovely to finally meet you.
It's so nice to be here.
I know we've done an Instagram live before, but it's so different than actually being in the room together, isn't it?
Absolutely, especially when during that Instagram I couldn't actually see your face.
Oh,
do you remember?
That. I'd forgotten.
So it's nice to see your face. Like, it's nice to see you in person.
Yeah, that wasn't really ideal, was it? It really wasn't.
No,
ideal.
but it went really well. Yeah.
But we followed each other on Instagram for ages, haven't we? And your account is just so beautiful and so soothing. And
I feel the same way about yours. I think your words are so healing for everyone around. Like, yeah.
You're so kind. I really wanted to invite you on the podcast I Don't Think We Talk Enough About, because I think there's an element in your work that you're so open with about using social media for a healing purpose. And we're not going to launch straight into that, but that's why I wanted you on, because you're so positive about using social media in the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. Firstly, I'm honoured. Thank you for having me. And I've had my own journey with social media, and I've come to terms with what's good about it and what isn't good about it. And I generally see more positives, and it's changed my journey forever, and it's allowed me to have this career and do everything that I love. And so I'm definitely on the side of social media if we use it right.
So we'll come to that, but You've written the most amazing book that I've had the privilege of seeing an advance copy, and it's called The Path to Self-Love. Shall I hold it up to the camera?
Oh, yes, please.
Look at that beautiful cover. It's just beautiful, and it is so soothing the whole way through. Now, before we get really started, I would absolutely love you to read your first quote on the book.
Oh, absolutely.
But it made me giggle because as I was reading that, and then I turned the page, I was like, oh no, she should read that. And then, oh no, that one as well. And then I realised I just want you to read the whole book.
Do you know what? I do in the audiobook. I absolutely do.
What a treat.
I'll send it to you.
Oh, I'd love to. I'm just going to hand the book over to you, but
Yes.
I would just love you to read that out.
Thank you. Before I go into it, recording the audiobook of this book was the hardest thing I ever did, because I talk so fast generally. So when I'm reading, I read really fast. And when I was recording, especially these pieces, I really had to slow down. I had to I tried not to be monotone, but it was so hard, Helen. Honestly, it was very hard.
So should we first of all just do a lovely we'll do the 4-7-8 breath.
Okay.
Which will just slow our nervous system down and send cues of safety.
Oh, I love
Sometimes we speak really fast when we're a bit nervous.
Yes.
So what we're going to do is breathe in for 4,
Okay.
hold for 7 at the top, and then slowly out for 8.
I'm ready.
Okay. That feel nice?
That feels amazing. You are brilliant.
Over to you.
I feel relaxed.
Just like that.
I don't know how you do it. Oh, it's because you're a therapist. This piece is called When the Difficult Days Pass, because that is literally apt, because that's how it starts. So, hey. When the difficult days pass, promise me you won't forget how courageous you were when things got hard, how honest you were with your pain, how your hands held your heart with a gentleness that couldn't be matched. Promise me you won't forget the sunsets that left you glowing gold on evenings that felt too heavy on your shoulders. Promise me that you won't forget the light that you found bubbling inside when you couldn't find it anywhere else. When the difficult days pass, promise me you won't forget how easy it was to give up, but you never did. Promise me you won't forget that you gave yourself a new life. You found new friends, took adventures. You let your laughter reach inside you and make you warm again. You gave love another chance. You didn't let your past define you. You let it build you. Promise me you won't forget how much the difficult days took out of you and just how much you poured back in.
That makes me want to cry.
Yeah, writing a lot of these pieces was very hard for me. Like, it was just a really emotional experience. Yeah.
Do you want to tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, this book in general has been like the most vulnerable and honest thing I've ever written. So I share like online a lot about self-love and healing and mental health, and I write, these lyrical pieces of prose that I share, but I've never actually given my readers like the insight and the first hand of exactly what I went through to write about this stuff and to also come through from it. And so I wanted to write this book to give them this is how I healed using self-love. I'm still healing, but this is exactly what happened. And so in the US, actually, the book is put under the category of a memoir because there's so many of my like own personal experiences in the book. Over here, it's a personal development self-help book. But there's just so much of like my raw truths, things I've gone through, lessons I've learned, just so I can help other people in some way in their healing journey, because I think it's so important to see someone who went through a difficult time and came through from it, for you to also gain the strength and think, if this person can do it, then I can too. But just writing that was so hard. It was so difficult, yeah.
I really appreciate you writing it, because it feels like it's written from the heart. And I understand why it's been put into the memoir category, because it has that feeling of such deep truth. I can feel it. And obviously you talk about your background and your journey to here. And I know your readers, is whether you want to share today, but I know the readers of your book will learn so much more about you. Yeah. But as a therapist, Ruby, I really am holding you very carefully today, because you came from a really difficult past, really difficult. And I'm so humbled that you can go through that and produce this to help others. It reminds me of that Brené Brown quote, isn't it? What does she say about using your experience to help others? People, I can't remember the exact quote, but it's so powerful about what you've been through, what you've survived, and then just giving others hope, such hope. Do you want to talk a little bit about your journey up to this point, because you've written other books and they've been bestsellers?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, look at you, literary expert.
I'm really not. I think until now, so I wanted to be like a writer and author when I was very, very young.
Did you?
So I was, I write about it in the book as well, but essentially I come from a very, very specific minority group. I'm an Afghan Sikh. And now I'm a British Afghan Sikh. And so I was only 3 when we migrated to the UK. So there's like minority Sikhs that used to live in Afghanistan. After the Taliban's rose to power, it was very difficult for them to continue staying there as a minority group. And so they all kind of migrated out. So my family found safety, solace over here. I was only 3. My brother was, I think, 6 or 7 at the time. And a year later, my mum passed away. So here we are, we've migrated to the West to find, a new life for ourselves. And we've gone through this very difficult tragedy. And after that, life was just never the same, essentially. And so I watched my dad, deal with, PTSD. He tried to medicate his pain using alcohol. That wasn't the best thing. It just I spent my entire childhood like grieving the death of one parent, and I write it in the book as well, grieving the death of one parent and constantly worrying that I would lose the other, essentially.
Of course.
And then at the same time, I'm going through all these experiences that people of color who have, migrated to the West are going through. So there's poverty, there's living in a housing system, there's social services because of what I've gone through so young. There's moving around from here to there. And I was, I think, 8 when I had like my first experience of coming across a book. I was in a secondhand, like a bookstall. My dad used to do he used to hold market stalls on the weekends.
You talk about that, yes.
And I came across this bookstore and I saw all these secondhand books, and I decided to take some home. And that's it. Like, my life changed forever. I started reading books so young. I would find like an escape in the books. So I'd read all these wonderful stories, fairy tales, and stories about people whose background and lives were so different to mine, and I'd just escape the pain for a little bit. And I was 10 when I wrote like my first own alternative chapter to like a book by Karen McCombie. I remember she used to write like the Ali's World series, and come on, I'm an Afghan Sikh, British Afghan Sikh. I've gone through so much. The possibility of me being an author, of writing books, is never going to happen. And that's something that I just buried in my heart for years and years. And then I graduated when I was 21, and I was like, okay, what's a practical career to do? I studied philosophy because I still, I never had a knack for, the sciences, which most South Asian kids are like pushed towards. I just never had a skill set for it, honestly. I said, let me go into teaching,
yes,
which is going to be plan B.
And
I'm going to continue writing this novel that I've been working on since I was 18. So I would write every summer during uni, and I'd work on this romance fiction novel I was working on. And then I was like, okay, let me train to be a teacher. And then in my free time, teachers don't have free time, okay? And I literally thought, in my free time, on the weekends, after school, in the holidays, I will write this book. Yeah, that was not realistic. 3 months in, and my entire life was consumed by my PGC, which is a teacher training course. Had no time to write, had no time to do anything. And I was so unhappy. And then at the same time, I went through some really, really difficult experiences in my personal life. My home life was horrible. I left the home. I went to go live with my aunt. There was just so much going on,
of course,
in my personal life. So then I left my teaching degree, and I was like, I'm going to work. I'll go back to my retail job at Next. I'm going to work, and I'm going to write, essentially. But then the fiction no longer came to me. It was just these heartbroken words of like poetry and wanting to just move on from what I was experiencing. And there was just so much pain there that I had to write about it. And that's when I created the Instagram page, the infamous Instagram page, which has led me to now finally published with Penguin, essentially.
Thank goodness you did. Thank goodness you did. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I was listening, forgetting that I'm on a podcast and not doing a therapy session. I wanted to ask, and I'm going to hold back. But that sounds really difficult. And I, as you were talking, I was thinking, who's going to snap up the movie rights for Ruby's life? Because what a beautiful story that you've created. Now, you mentioned in the book, self-love taught me that even though I couldn't do much about the pain that I was handed, I could do a lot with it.
Yeah.
Now that's so philosophical, and it reminds me of one of the philosophers I studied at Regents when I did my training, Heidegger.
Yeah.
That he says you can't change what's been thrown at you, but you can choose how you move through it and on. And that's exactly what you've done. Let's bring it up to date to the Instagram, where you, in the chapter is called, remind me, challenging, everyday challenges.
And social media.
Social media. So we're going to come to the bit in a minute about how you found healing through social media. That was so beautiful to hear, because we hear such negative stories about social media, but you also talked about your negative experience on social media. Do you want to just... Because lots of people listening to this will be quite active on social media, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
I know from myself with an account that the negativity can creep in.
Yeah.
What was your experience of it?
So even when I start this book, like I talk about self-love and how we see it online, like how we see people indulging in it and how it paints this picture of self-love that, isn't the whole picture, essentially. And so people might think that I'm against social media. I'm not against social media. So that's just an example that I give. But then I go into, as you said, that chapter where I talk about how healing social media is. Now, when I was healing, when I was 21, I was heartbroken. I was upset. I was in a very, very like depressive episode. Didn't really talk about it to anyone because depression is taboo in my culture.
Okay.
People talk about it a lot more now.
Interesting to bring that in.
Yeah.
Because we forget that sometimes, don't we?
Yeah.
And that actually culturally it has a huge impact on how we handle our mental health.
Absolutely. And so for someone who's not able to talk about how much pain they're in, their life is all over the place and they want to heal from it and they can't go to a therapist to get help, what do? And I had no way out of it. So I would just log online to get my mind off things, and I'd see people who are happy and people are like married and, you know, moving countries and they're having kids and they've got a new job and they're just living their best lives. And it would make me feel worse about my situation. I would just feel like I am such a failure. I'd feel like, here I am, I've left my teacher training within 3 months and I'm living at my aunt's house and I've got a part-time job and I can't even do anything with my life, and what is going on, and I'm a mess, and this person from high school is now marrying or engaged to their high school sweetheart, and like it would just make me feel so horrible about my situation. And that kind of years later made me more sensitive to how social media can negatively affect someone's healing journey and how it can make you feel worse when you already have low self-esteem. You know, and that's something I really wanted to shed light into when I first started writing the social media chapter. But then, of course, social media also changed everything around for me. But it was all to do with my intention. So I got so fed up of feeling sorry for myself. I got so fed up of just putting myself down, you know, comparing myself online. And then I was like, okay, so I can't get rid of this. I can't get rid of social media or technology. What can I do with it? Because we live in an ever-changing and technological world. We're always going to have one app or another. So then I started looking for stuff that could help me. So I started searching, like, you know, pages of poetry and pages of like healing quotes. And back then we didn't have as many pages by like professionals as much as we do now.
It's exploded, hasn't it, really? It really has.
Yeah,
which is wonderful.
I think
people
it's
can
wonderful.
become so informed now, can't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
I completely agree with you. There's so many resources out there if we look carefully.
Absolutely. And I think in the last few years it's become exponential, and it's so good for people when they access the right resources. I didn't have access to as much. So this is over 8 years ago. There's no TikTok. There's no, like, you know, even Instagram is like kind of evolving. So I mostly just have healing poetry pages and pages where people are talking about, like, you know, the kind of stuff that I share now, essentially. I came across R.M. Drake and Najwa Zebian and Nikita Gill, and there was just so much pain and rawness, and I found parts of myself healing when I would read their words. And I didn't even know there was such a thing as sharing your work online. And
go back to that parts of you that were healing. Go on. What did that feel like? Explain.
So say you're going through really low self-esteem, and then you read like a quote online and someone explains it so deeply, and you just feel like, I didn't know someone felt like this, and they do, and they can explain how I'm feeling so well, even better than me. And then you read it and you're like, wow, like that resonates with me so much. And the more that I read these quotes, I went out and bought their books. You know, I bought all these wonderful like contemporary poetry books and contemporary lyrical pieces of prose books and so on. And I started reading them and then accessing more of this content online. And then I was like, I can do this too. You know, I am hurting and I'm not feeling very good about my situation. I had an Instagram page at the time that I had started, but it was for my fiction work. So I had
to that.
Yeah. So I had a WordPress, and I would share like short stories and little, you know, pieces of fiction on there. And then on my Instagram page, I would put a screenshot of the WordPress and I'd be like, go and check it out. But then the more that I read these quotes and these poems, I was like, I have the potential to write this. And also I write this on a daily, I just don't share it, you know, because there I am every day journaling how I'm feeling and trying to express my emotions. And then that's when I started sharing my words online, and literally within a few weeks and months, it just exploded. Yeah, it was crazy. I went from like 100, 200. And at that time I was using a pseudonym, so I didn't want anyone to know that it was me.
What was your pseudonym?
It was, you know what? Anyone could have found me, Helen. It was r.dhal. Okay, so it wasn't even like, it was just, and then I blocked everyone from my community because I didn't want anyone to know. Because like I come from such a like a specific community that there were no artists, there were no writers. Like 8 years ago, there was like no one in the arts at all. And so I still am like the first writer of this very specific community. And so at that time I was like, I'm going to be judged for writing about heartbreak and pain and mental health and depression. And so I just didn't want them to know. And then when my page exploded, and when like within a couple of months I had, you know, hundreds and then tens of thousands and 20,000 followers, that's when I was like, you know what, I don't care anymore what people think about me.
The Embody Lab is an online resource for embodied education, self-discovery and healing, founded by Dr. Scott Lyons, a renowned author and expert in holistic psychology and mind-body medicine. The Embody Lab is committed to making somatics and trauma healing accessible to everyone by offering virtual events, summits and certificates. The Embody Lab empowers individuals to embark on their own journey of personal growth and transformation through a diverse digital catalogue of programs and resources. Explore exclusive teachings from world-renowned experts like Gabor Mate, Bessel van der Kolk, Peter Levine, Diane Paul Heller and more. Join the Embody Lab community to deepen your healing path. I'm a huge fan of the Embody Lab, and just for you, I have a special code which gives you 10% off all of their courses, and that's Helen6788. The Embody Lab truly is a wonderful resource for your healing journey.
I found my power in my vulnerability. Like I no longer saw it.
Didn't you?
Yeah. I no longer saw it as something embarrassing or something that I should be ashamed of. Yeah.
Because I suppose I have a funny relationship around the term external validation.
Yeah.
Because it's not that it was the external validation that you were craving. It was actually the validation that was making you feel seen, heard, witnessed, understood.
Yeah.
And which human doesn't want to feel that? Yeah. We all want to feel accepted, like we belong somewhere, particularly where you were feeling, it sounds like you were feeling you didn't belong.
Yeah.
And then suddenly online, social media, you found that you belonged somewhere.
Absolutely.
It's so beautifully healing in that moment that encouraged you to keep sharing.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine the amount of people you've helped.
I mean, I think it's the biggest blessing I could have received, because people message me and they're like, your words have, you know, helped heal me. And I'm like, no, you have helped heal me, because me sharing my work over the last 8 years has healed so much of myself, because being able to not only write and share it online, but finding a community and finding other people who resonate with your feelings, as you said, you not only feel validated, but you feel like you're a part of something. You feel like, because these are universal emotions, we all feel them. Our experiences can be very intricate and very personal, but the emotions there are very, very universal. They're very real, and so many people can relate and empathize with what we're going through.
I know.
And so as the page grew, I wanted to be even more honest about my experiences, things that I have written in this book I would have never spoken about 8 years ago, 10 years ago. I don't even think that if I had not started sharing my writing online, I'd even be here to write this book, because I had wanted to be an author for as long as I could imagine. And being a fiction author was a self-directed dream. It was something that would have really fulfilled me, and it would have made me happy, because it was like a 10-year-old Ruby's dream come true. But the moment that I started writing this non-fiction work, this poetry, prose, and now this self-help book, it allowed me to realize that I have a purpose that's so much bigger than it's not just about me. If I can help someone in their life through my words, wow, what a great way to live. Like, what a great, purposeful way to exist, to impact someone positively through my words. Like, that is, like, 10-year-old me couldn't have ever expected or even imagined that. And social media gave me that purpose. Like sharing my work online gave me that.
It did. But it also helped heal you.
Yeah.
And I find that such a beautiful aspect to your writing and social media, that finding the right group, being able to share your words. And we all know that journaling is so soothing and healing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I wonder whether you used to do a lot of journaling, actually.
Yeah, at the time I did. And a lot of those journal posts used to make it on my Instagram page, yeah.
And it's such a tool, isn't it,
Yeah.
for getting the words out of our head and move them forward. It gives them movement as opposed to them being stuck, which also helps us process emotion.
Yeah.
So it's so healing, not just from the words you're saying, but the actual movement of emotions. We always say as therapists, give your emotions movement.
Yeah.
Whether it's dancing, whether it's jumping up and down, whether it's writing, running, give them movement. And you've done that in abundance. You really have. There was another quote that you said that I wanted to share about the social media aspect. You talked about the contrast between social media and your own real life. And we talked about that a little bit earlier. But what advice would you give to someone about self-love and social media, about not getting the two mixed up, where we lose our sense of self by being on social media? So you've found a real, what I would say as a therapist, a secure sense of self on social media. There's less anxiety about being on social media in the way you're using it now. You're less feeling in low mood when you use social media now.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to someone that is looking to start their self-care journey and self-love journey using social media?
Yeah, I would say that one of the biggest things that we need to remember is that there will always be a sense of anxiety when you do use social media. There's always, like, you can't use social media completely free from coming across a post that you might find yourself comparing yourself to. So like when you scroll nonstop, the likelihood of you coming across something that will upset you or that will trigger you or get to you is there.
Yes.
It's not like it's not there.
Yeah, you can't avoid it.
You can't avoid it. So you have to train yourself, and you kind of have to be comfortable and confident in your own self to not let it get to you. So even myself, like with my social media platform, of course there are days when I'm looking at someone else and they're doing so well and I'm like, oh, I wish like you do find like we're human. Comparison is something that we are always going to do. But the way that I deal with it is I remind myself that for me, social media is not for me to log online and see how well other people are doing so I can compare myself, but to see how well they're doing so that I can congratulate them, so I can be happy for them.
That's cool.
Because their success journey and them doing well in their life doesn't affect me, and it doesn't affect my success journey or my healing journey or my self-love journey, because their life is not about me, just like my life is not about them. And so there's a few ways in which I talk about how you can use social media safely. One way in which I would use it safely, or use it in a way where you are taking care of yourself, is to unfollow all the pages that you think are going to trigger you. Pages that you go on and you only find yourself comparing to this fitness model or to this person who's traveling around the world and living their best life, or to, this person who's got a great work from home setup that you wish you had. Unfollow them all. Unfollow them all.
I know, I hear you. I hear you.
And it's firstly, unfollow them all. But secondly, if you always find yourself comparing yourself to someone else who you think is better, smarter, prettier, whatever it is, more successful than you really need to sit down and reflect, why is this particular emotion coming out whenever I come across this post? Is it something that they have that you want? Can you achieve it? Yes. If they have something that you don't want, why do you feel triggered by it? And thirdly, if it's something that neither you want to strive for, then why do you feel like this? Is it because when you were a kid, there were certain things that other people had that you didn't have? And now as an adult, people having stuff that you don't have, even though you don't want it, triggers you and it brings that back, all that childhood trauma. You just need to kind of sit down and think and reflect and look back at the mirror of your memories of your childhood and adolescent years, so you can understand why you feel the way that you do when you come across something online. And another way, especially if you're on a self-love journey and say you're trying to lose weight, and you're like, okay, I want to lose weight, not because I want to weigh a certain amount, but because I want to improve my health. I have a health condition and I need to lose weight for it. Okay. If you're following fitness pages because you think they're going to help you, great. If you're following fitness pages because you aspire to be like this person, don't do it for that reason. And so you really need to think about your intention as well when you follow social media accounts. Don't follow an account that will lead you to compare. Don't follow an account of a former nemesis or someone who you don't like. Don't follow an account of someone who you don't really like, you have nothing to do with each other. Like, just kind of make your social media circle very small.
Yes.
Make it very small. Keep those wholesome, influential, lovely pages that you want to. Get rid of all the other stuff that's going to bring about negative feelings. If you ever do feel negative, sit down, reflect. Why do I feel this way when I've come across this, particular post? Do they have something that I want? Can I work towards it? Great. Can I not work towards it? Then that's it. I can't have that thing. I need to stop worrying about it. And so, I think it's just, we can't get rid of social media. So we need to train our mindset and become more confident in ourselves in order to be able to use it well.
I agree.
To our benefit.
I so agree with you. And as you're talking, I'm literally nodding away thinking, is Ruby a therapist?
No.
It was so great. No, but it was such beautiful advice, because I think social media isn't going away.
Yeah.
And you talk in the book about using it more intentionally. But I wanted to come back to the point you were saying about really sitting with yourself when something arises with comparison on social. We all compare. So when something arises on social media where you feel that feeling come in, is to sit with it and listen.
Yeah.
What's it actually saying to me? Instead of jumping down the judgmental route or I'm not good enough route, what is it saying? And I've got a really funny story. I remember following someone on Instagram. I still follow them. I'm not going to say who it is. And they had the most incredible cutlery drawer. Now, it's small. Okay, it's small. But it was this most beautiful cutlery drawer. And I was like, my cutlery drawer is an absolute mess. It made me go to my cutlery drawer, empty it, clean it, and put it all back in again beautifully. Bought new trays. And I was like, that's just a very small example, and it's silly, of just being inspired by someone instead of being judgmental. Choose You, my brand new book, is out now wherever you buy your books. And in line with today's episode, I have an entire chapter on self-love, which you may find useful if anything from the episode resonates for you. I guide you through why you may find it difficult, offer tools to help, include reflective journal prompts, and show you ways to live a life where you offer yourself love over judgment. Choose You, out now. But I think you do talk about it in your book. You say about, we so often think that we will want what we see on Instagram or TikTok, any social media platform. And then it's about sitting with ourselves and saying, but do I really want that? Actually, where do I feel safest and most comfortable? Do I really want to be travelling around the world when actually I'm a real homebody?
Absolutely.
Do I want to be out at parties and wine bars every night when I just love being in my home with a bowl of popcorn and watching a good movie? Yeah. It's actually, what do you really want, instead of being sold a lifestyle we think we should want. And that feeling is so grounding in the moment. It's gratitude as well, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Really, it really is. Tying into that comparison element and also the self-love element around social media and healing is, you say the way we use social media is our enemy, not social media itself. And I think that's a brilliant quote.
Thank you.
And I think that needs to be printed on billboards, T-shirts, everywhere, buses. I think it's really crucial.
Yeah.
We are our own worst enemy when it comes to social media.
Absolutely.
It highlights our own self-work. But anyway, Ruby,
yes.
thank you so much for all of that, but I have some wonderful questions from my Instagram community.
Yeah.
For every podcast, I reach out and ask them if they've got any questions. We've only got time for 2 today.
Fine, yeah.
But the first one is, how does one love themselves when they have not experienced true healthy love?
Yeah. So the way that I talk about self-love in the book is that self-love is as a practice, essentially. And we focus so much on self-care practices that we don't think about the tough, messy self-love, which is the most life-changing. So if you haven't experienced healthy love, it's so important for you to walk on the self-love journey. And by that, I mean doing the deep, tough stuff first. Only then will you eventually be able to get to the easy self-love. It's not easy in that it's easy to do. Well, the way that I compare it to tough self-love is that the tough stuff is a lot more difficult. It can bring about a lot more negative and painful emotions. And the easy stuff is stuff that you do with the intention to feel good. So if you haven't experienced healthy love, the way that I would say you practice self-love is you start off by asking yourself the difficult questions. You look back, you sit down and you look back at your past and you try and figure out why you feel the way that you do. Do you have low self-esteem? Okay, you have low self-esteem. In the past, has someone treated you a certain way which has made you feel like this? Have you ever been made to feel bad about your weight, about the way that you look, about the way that you talk? Is that why you have low self-esteem? Okay, now sit with those thoughts, reflect, and now tell yourself, how can I come through from this? Can I change my past? Can I get closure from this person? Can I have that conversation with this person? If not, let me go to my safe space. Let me go to my support circle. Let me speak to them.
Crucial.
You know, about my self-esteem issues. This is how I'm going to deal with my low self-esteem. This is how I'm going to move forward. That is an act of self-love.
Yes.
That is an act of self-love.
And I think, just to add in there, I think we so often think of self-love as being, I love myself.
Oh my God.
It can be much smaller examples of just, it might be to go and make your favourite drink.
Yeah.
I'm going small because I
Yeah.
think sometimes it's about the small stepping stones.
Absolutely.
What happens there, what shifts in your nervous
Yeah.
system. Keep shifting the nervous system forward.
Yeah.
That was a beautiful answer.
Absolutely.
A beautiful answer. And sadly, not everyone has a true model of healthy love.
I didn't at all.
So you're a beautiful person to be able to give some advice forward for that. But I always say to people, start small.
Start small.
And look for support where you can.
Yeah.
And the next question is, which comes up all the time, how can we separate self-love from society's interpretation of it as selfish?
I literally separate I distinguish between it in my book, literally. So the way that I see it is that the way that society displays self-love, the way that we see it is self-love as a hashtag to like Instagram posts of just having a self-care day.
I know.
A coffee is all I need.
Yes.
Netflix and, coffee or whatever, relaxing. And then we just see it as a hashtag to all these little posts. Or you go on TikTok and you see someone doing a 5 a.m. run and then going to their favorite cafe for a coffee and then having a healthy breakfast, and that's self-love. And so society has put forward this like me.
Agreed.
I put myself first by doing all these activities, these self-care activities that will instantly give me that boost of a high in the moment, that we have forgotten that self-love isn't just that stuff. I'm not saying that that's not important. That's very important.
It's lifestyle important.
It's lifestyle important. However, there's a very, very deep part of self-love, the part that can truly change your life forever. And that form of self-love is what allows you to get to the self-care stuff. Yeah. Because if you do just the self-care stuff, and I did that for quite a few years, where I would just go to the gym a few times a week, drink my 2 liters every day, take myself out for a coffee once a week, do all of those things.
And why aren't I feeling better?
Why am I not feeling better?
I know.
Why do I still feel in pain? Why do I still have this mugginess in my head? And it's because you're not doing the stuff that's life-changing.
I know.
Self-love is a practice. And as a practice that's life-changing is rewind the reel of your past to figure out how to move on from this trauma that you experience. Sit down and ask yourself, why can't I get into healthy relationships? Why do I always get out of these relationships? Go to see a therapist.
Yes.
Join an AA class if you've got a drinking problem.
Yes.
Admit you have a drinking problem.
Yeah, it can be very hard.
Get closure. Give closure. Of course, it's, from my personal experience, admitting you have a drinking problem, sometimes it never comes. It never comes.
Of course.
But have those difficult conversations. Forgive. Ask for forgiveness. That's all you practicing tough self-love.
Tough self-love. And in that, I can hear resonating through your words there is actually leaning in towards self-compassion.
Absolutely.
And even as I say that, I can feel my nervous system ease.
Yeah.
We can be so hard on ourselves.
So hard.
I view self-love as accepting our humanness.
That's it. That's the most beautiful way to put it, honestly.
I've got one last question.
Yeah, sure.
To finish the podcast, which I ask everyone, which is to link it into my own book.
Yeah, your beautiful book.
But to link it into my own book is, what does it mean to choose you?
I think choosing you is having an intention to take care of yourself and to give yourself the life that you deserve. It's literally not every day, because some days are hard, not every day is the same, but just if you live with that intention that I'm going to give myself the same compassion, the same respect, the same level of care that I give the people that are the closest to me, then you are choosing yourself. It's not about I'm going to put myself first every day, or I'm going to put my needs over others. It's about I'm going to give myself the space that I need to heal, to be happy, to experience joy and love and relationships, and to just every day live with that intention, and to just go through the highs and lows of life alongside, but just take care of myself along the way. Yeah.
Gosh, that was gorgeous.
Yeah, I hope
that was gorgeous. No, that was so gorgeous. Oh, Ruby, it's been so wonderful to host you on the podcast. I'm so delighted you accepted. But your book, let's just show it one more time to the camera. So The Path to Self-Love, Heal Your Heart, Set Healthy Boundaries and Unlock Your Inner Strength. When's it coming out?
On the 13th of June in the UK. Yeah.
Not long.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. You have been the best podcast host I've had until now, honestly. The most compassionate, kind, everything.
Absolutely beautiful girl you are. Thank you.
You are amazing. Thank you, Helen.
Thank you.